Powerful framework. First of all, in strategy, there is a lot of BS. Can I use that word? There's a lot of buzzwords being thrown around.
Of course.
There's a lot of frameworks that, somebody comes up with a 2x2 matrix and, it's the need of the moment. But things that last a long time, I believe, is because they have something underneath that is solid.
Hi everyone. A lot of you guys ask me, sir, ये strategy क्या चीज होती है? Today I've got Professor David with me. Hi David, welcome on board.
Hello.
David is engineer, then MBA, and then PhD. Sir, first of all, were you asked this question like why MBA after engineering?
I think I came to the same conclusion we were talking about before, right? And you said I did my engineering and I said not this. So it was similar to that, right? As I was finishing my engineering studies, I said not this, and then I switched to management, business administration.
That's how honest this podcast is going to be. But this guy asked the same question in the interviews: why engineering and then why MBA after that?
By the way, I'm a firm believer that having an engineering background is very good for business because it gives you that kind of structure of thinking that I think helps a lot. But yeah, for me it was, let's get into something else.
That's so amazing. The same reason was with me when I finished my engineering as well. By the way, sir teaches growth strategy, digital innovation, corporate entrepreneurship, scenario planning. And today we're going to talk about a small 101 session on strategy. Please help us. These guys are all 20, 21-year-old. They're aiming to get their roles into the strategy. And they're all wooed by the blue oceans and the red oceans and the green oceans of the world. So what strategy is all about, please?
Yes, as I see every time when I teach, the first strategy course to the postgraduate students, I see that everybody wants to be a CEO right away.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody wants to get to that top job and the big picture, the big strategy position. And strategy is, first of all, a very overused word. It means a lot of things to many people. And I like to say that, for business, when you are in a company and you are kind of in charge of doing strategy, strategy is planning at the right altitude. Okay? There are two mistakes. It's to do strategy at too high of a level. Imagine that you're doing strategy from space.
Yeah.
Right? That's a mistake that happens in companies and in people. And there's another mistake of doing strategy on the ground. Okay? There is a right level that is in between, like say strategy from a plane or from a helicopter. Okay? The mistake of doing strategy on the ground, a lot of companies do it. For them, doing strategy is doing numbers.
Yeah.
For them, doing strategy is how many salespeople do we need?
Yeah.
What's the budget for marketing next year? Which channels are we going to use? Okay? That's too concrete. That's too low level on the ground to be strategy. The other mistake that people make, and I think that's more a mistake that students, when they come to an MBA program, make and sort of come with that bias, is to do strategy from space.
Okay.
To immediately look at the entire company. So you start looking at Reliance Industries.
I mean,
right?
from the vision and the mission of the whole thing, you start thinking from that. That's
or you look at Tesla, right? And they make a mistake because then they are too broad in their thinking about strategy, right? Well, Tesla, the brand, Reliance, Geo,
Elon Musk, and
the growth, and Netflix, it's so cool. And all kinds of biases play in there in that they get too attracted by how much they've heard about it. So if they heard about it, it's good. If the brand is very visible, it's good. And they end up talking and trying to talk about strategy at a level that is way too broad. Right. So what we try to tell them, what I try to tell them, is to learn. I think the first thing to learn about strategy is learn about running a Kirana store.
Okay.
What are the unit economics? What are the inventory needs? What are the forecasts that you can do in there? How do you build your range of products based on that? How do you promote it? Learn at a small scale how to do that. Yeah. And then once you have that basis, once you understand the cost structure, once you understand, then you can start going up and seeing the picture at the aeroplane level.
How would a DMart think like, or how would a...
Now that you understand how the Kirana store works, now maybe a bunch of stores, a supermarket that has a value proposition, that has a starting to build a brand. Now you understand what's behind it and the constraints that that business is experiencing and what you can do in terms of strategy. So first the low level, then you can build.
Super. That's so
right
lovely. I mean,
strategy
even a shopkeeper or a Kiryana store guy also has his 4 Ps in place. He's doing his promotions up, right? He's placing the products and he's got his distribution network as well.
Yes.
And he's doing his own advertisements
Yes.
That's lovely.
One of my professors at UCLA, and he's a guru in strategy that I keep, just promoting, right? Because I was his disciple, but also I admire his thinking very much. Keeps writing lately about strategy being something very simple. It's about solving problems.
Yeah.
Right? Problems that the most challenging problem that the business has, solve it.
Yeah.
You're doing strategy. That's doing strategy, right? And anybody at any kind of business, at any level of the business, has the most challenging problem, right? The marketing cat has the most challenging problem long term for the marketing department. It's not what we're going to do next week.
True.
It's how should we build this department, right, for the medium term, right, to help the company. So that challenging problem and solving it any way you can, right? If the frameworks help, if what we teach here, Blue Ocean, etc., helps, great. Many times they do help.
They do.
Right? At least in terms of thinking about it.
Yeah.
But if the solution is something that nobody thought of, that no framework is giving you, but that is creative and you came up with it and it solves the problem, you're doing strategy.
Great.
Right?
Frameworks do help. I'm going to talk about a Blue Ocean in a minute. But frameworks do help. When you don't know anything, how to start thinking, isn't it? So
it's the same thing that I was telling you before, right? Students come here thinking at too high level.
Yeah.
How do you go to that specific level to understand how things really work?
Right.
You need a framework. You need a framework that tells you, hey, take this profit and loss account and understand it, right? By breaking it up this way.
Yeah.
Take the marketing effort of this company and understand it by breaking it up this way. That's what the framework helps you do.
I want to ask you a tough question. Is Porter's 5 forces still relevant? I was trained on that 10 years back. Then I went to Harvard for my executive management. Porter's 5 forces. I did a week at Oxford. Porter 5 forces.
Yes.
It is still relevant.
Yes.
Do you teach it first of all?
I do. Okay. I do. I teach it in a way. So I think obviously you always need to keep updating it. It's a very powerful framework. First of all, in strategy there is a lot of BS. Can I use that word? There's a lot of buzzwords being thrown around.
Of course.
There's a lot of frameworks that somebody comes up with a 2x2 matrix, and it's the need of the moment. But things that last a long time, I believe, is because they have something underneath that is solid. And Porter's 5 forces has lasted a very long time.
Yes.
Now, I don't think Porter's 5 forces is a framework that someone doing strategy in a company should sit down and say, okay, let's analyze the 5 forces.
Let's do the 5 forces.
The concepts behind, the concepts that Porter talked about, are the concepts that companies are facing constantly these days. Right? The bargaining power of suppliers and how that changes over time. Right? If there's been a change in regulations and all of a sudden you find that all your suppliers are aggregating and instead of 10 now you have 3, that is a change that affects you very, very much.
Right. So it's relevant. I think it's relevant when you're studying in the classroom and later on you use all these things and it's in your subconscious mind.
But that's always the key when learning these things, right? That you go beyond simply, I have to learn this framework because it's part of the slides and there is a description of what every element means, to understanding how do I use these concepts?
Got it.
How do I use the factors that are in there that create competitive rivalry to understand my industry?
Great.
Right? That's the key.
Great. So I'm going to ask a very basic question. A dean of a business school is with us. So what's this? How many oceans do we have now? And
by definition, the blue ocean is that place that nobody has discovered yet. So one could easily assume that there are infinite number of those blue oceans that we still haven't found, right?
Lovely. That was a great answer. So what's blue ocean? What everybody talks about. I mean,
so the cycle is always the same. Somebody creates a new value proposition and a new way to execute that value proposition. It might be a product, a service. that is more compelling than the previous version. Right? Salesforce. Salesforce has taken over the CRM software world by iterating and really changing the formula for giving that service from what was there before, right? From an IT provider. And it's transformed the CRM industry, right? And many examples like that. So there's always someone that comes and changes the way of doing things in an industry. After that, imitation comes in. And more imitators come in and try to do the same, but slightly different. And that way of doing things start getting populated by many players. So the way to be different starts getting narrower and narrower until they all look the same. And now the only way, once they all look the same, is to compete on price. It's a commodity. So the next part of the cycle is whoever in there or from outside comes in and does another leap into the blue ocean, right? So it's always blue ocean, population of that blue ocean by everybody saying, okay, that's the way to do it, right? It works. Converts into a red ocean, and after a while, when people get tired or when there is a technological change, right? When there is like cloud is now an enabler, right? So there's a new way to do this. Or there is a UPI platform, their payments platform, right? So these kind of events that are external enable transformations of the way of doing, of the strategy of that industry, and create that leap into a space that nobody's there. So the first 2 or 3 companies, enjoy their time in the non-competition. But very soon it gets
like the Salesforce. Then you had like Zoho CRM. Then everyone jumped in like, hey, Microsoft is called Azure. No, Azure Cloud. I think
Now they all come with their solutions that are based on the cloud, that are based on subscription, that are based software as service, and then within that basic model, then companies try to be just slightly different.
Just to add on to this, so what do you do? This is the business case problem. What I'm suffering. You do the best. You do blue ocean. You keep pivoting at different levels, and then but people are copying you, and the speed of copying is like 1 day, or 1 hour. What do you do next?
Well, we like to say that there are a number of things that allow you to keep your advantage, your differentiation advantage, for a longer time than 1 minute, right? But 1 day. One of those things is resources, right? The guy who's copying you is not you. Doesn't have your same skills, doesn't have your same personality, if we are talking about creating content, and that creates a differentiation.
He copies my personality as well.
It might not come off as authentic as someone who has that personality. But I don't know your specific case, but one of the differentiators is resources. Not everybody has the same resources. True. So even if you copy the formula, you cannot execute it the same way.
Got it.
Okay? Another way to keep your advantage is regulation. Sometimes simply there are these regulatory barriers that not everybody can clear.
Yes.
And another barrier is the brand. Right? After a while, once you've been doing things in a certain way, you've built a brand that any new entrant copying you has a hard time overcoming. And then there are other advantages that are maybe more digital, like the advantages that platforms try to build. Right? And a platform builds this network effect of having a lot of users and a lot of people maybe putting content. Right? Imagine YouTube, right? The advantage of YouTube is that you go in there and you know that you're going to find everything.
Got it.
Right? Got it. And the people who produce content for YouTube know that they're going to have millions and millions of users there watching content. Right. So that's an advantage that's difficult to replicate by anybody else.
Got it.
These kind of platform advantages that now all companies are chasing, right? Because it's the new
influencer game,
fountain of gold. Not always are there, right? So you can think of companies like Zomato and Swiggy that are very large, but their network effect advantages are not as strong as other types of platforms. But anyways, that's
lovely.
one
That's lovely.
type of barrier to losing.
That
But it's
thanks
true.
for
I
that.
mean, and in some industries, you just have to accept that until you find a new business model, you're going to be copied to death.
You can't do that. And this race keeps on going on, yeah? That's corporate, isn't it?
Yeah.
You keep on wearing a new hat every time.
Yeah.
Great. What's the red ocean? Last parting thoughts, and please, I'm really enjoying this conversation, boys and girls. Do it in the like button. I'm going to ask him 2 more questions. Sir, red ocean.
The red ocean is the opposite of this moment where companies invent something new, a new way to do things, right? A new value proposition. The red ocean is when there is a bunch of companies doing the same thing,
Yeah.
fighting it out every day on the tactics, right?
Yeah.
Fighting it out on price, fighting it out on promotions, fighting it out on. We have 2 salespeople from competing companies at the same time
Yes.
who can get the sale,
Yeah.
right? Based on whatever, right? That's the red ocean, and it's the situation, I would say, that is very common in most industries, you know,
Right.
at any point in time. It's the nature of business. In that red ocean, the big players win. So it's that dynamic where in red oceans, the size of the company has a lot to say, and the big player wins. In the transition towards blue oceans, the small company wins, the startup wins, because it's the small companies and it's the new entrants, the startups, that have the ability to do something different. The large companies are so rigid because they've been doing the same thing over and over, and they are designed for that they have a very hard time switching to a
I can so relate. I used to work for GE for about 5 years, and GE is, you know, like GE. So we used to call our company like it's a dinosaur. If you were to move from like left to right, it's going to be like. And GE spoke about the
Yes.
Internet of Things in 2009, 2010. That was my project, how it started. And where is GE doing it? I mean, there are startups coming in, playing in. Now it's like everything is there.
But there is that core organization, right? One of the big success stories that we see it constantly in Microsoft, right? What Satya Nadella managed to do was to switch away from the core business of the operating system, of the Windows operating system. That was the bread and butter of Microsoft for decades. And that created a ton of rigidity in the company. Microsoft, you know, had all kinds of technologies, had access to any kind of invention, but they couldn't really do anything beyond the Windows operating system because the organization was so set in its ways, right? Because it was so focused on what's worked for us for a long time. Taking that organization and switching it to a much more flexible, agile organization that is on the cloud, that is doing this much more advanced services. You know, we're reading today, you know, about the ChatGPT and you know, the speed at which they are integrating things.
Pumping in more money.
That's from a management perspective, from a strategy perspective, is quite simple. From an organizational, from a strategy execution perspective, is an incredible accomplishment that Satya Nadella has done.
This is so amazing. Okay, one last question. These all kids are confused in their lives. They are thinking to apply to SDA Bocconi or SPJain Bombay, my school, and using ChatGPT and filling up their applications. But they're going through ups and downs right now. What's your advice? You've done your MBA, engineering, PhD, everything. You stayed in the space, the ocean, which they are getting into. Any advice to all of these people?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can talk, you know, all day about pieces of advice. Of course, one thing two things I would say. One is go to an MBA, whatever you choose, right? Whatever you choose, go to an MBA to learn. I've been here for a number of years. I understand the return on investment part of it. I understand about being focused on the job after the MBA. I understand that you do an MBA to get to a great place.
Yeah.
Okay? But it's 2 years of your life. And the type of content, at least the type of content that we try to teach, the way of thinking, the ability to think, to solve complex problems that we teach, you're not going to have a better chance to get those tools. And those tools are going to last you a lifetime. Not your first job, not your second job, a lifetime. So really learn. Right? Learn. My second piece of advice is, and now I'm gonna maybe say something that you don't like. Yes, listen to him. Optimize the choice for your MBA. Okay, optimize the choice for the MBA. but also have that little piece of your brain that thinks, wherever I end up going, whatever program I choose, it's okay. It's not going to define my entire professional career. Professional careers are so dynamic. And I look at my students where they are 10 years after. And they are in places that they couldn't even imagine. It was not in their mind to be there. And they are thriving. Right? So wherever you go, whatever type of program you do, whatever specialty you take, whatever exchange you take, try to optimize it in the moment, because that's what you have to do. Like, use all the information and the tools. But then also think that your career is going to move a lot more than you think, and that you'll be fine. Whatever choice you end up doing, even if it's not your best or your second, you're going to be fine, because it's a lot more to learn.
It's a long journey for sure. Right? I'm not sure they would understand at this age, but I can
so that's why I said, I understand at this moment your job is to optimize the choice.
That's it. And you started with that. That's so amazing. All right, boys and girls, if you have any questions regarding strategy, आपके दिमाग में क्या चल रहा है, नीचे comment करिए. If I'm allowed to speak in Hindi for a minute, do it in the like button and let's have the discussion going on. What do you guys think about Red Ocean? What do you guys think about Blue Ocean? Have you been reading any books? Or if you're aiming at some kind of job with strategy, drop in the comments and I'll see you there. Thank you so much, David. It was lovely meeting you.
Likewise.
Take care. Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it, sir?
Good, very much.
So that's how we do it.
Yes.
So.
Good for you?
Oh, yeah.